Common Good Podcast. We hope we're coming to you live out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and somewhere just out in the outskirts, Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's Doug Pagitt and Robb Ryerse with you. Sure, it's a Wednesday, and you're saying to yourself, boy, I thought you talk politics only on Tuesdays. Well, you know, that's how it goes. This week we're talking about it even here on a Wednesday. And for those who have been begging for us to get back into the podcast rhythm, we're back.
Here we are. Though it
Sorry,
doesn't, it doesn't feel exactly like the rhythm, though, because we're on a Wednesday. It's the afternoon. Producer Dan isn't with us.
We're just barely back in.
Just barely.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's not get we're back about all this. But hey, we did a lot when we traveled the country and tried to put out live streams, and we'll put some of that up in the podcast stream. We know those of you only listening on the audio version of the podcast have been in a bit of a drought here on your Common Goodery. So we're glad to break that cycle. And we might even be back with the astrophysicist Paul Wallace tomorrow. Some of this has to do with the fact that I'm involved in lots of these podcasts, and we've had some family health issues with a little one in our family, and my life has become consumed the last 12 days with full-time care of a little sweetie. So that's been a huge part of it, and I've never known from day to day what kind of availability there would be. So anyway, we're sneaking back in, and we're going to do something kind of fun today on the politics side of things. Robb Ryerse is the political organizer of Vote Common Good. I'm the executive director of Vote Common Good. So we like to talk about politics. We like to talk about faith. We like to talk about a lot of things. And by the way, I'll say, Rob, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't know if you're a big podcast listener.
I am.
There are many a style. You know, there's the highly produced ones that are crafted into episodes. They are what they are. It's more like a radio show or something. And then there's the real chatty ones, like lots of people talking over each other and laughter, and wow, just a lot of work for the audio engineers to make sense of that. And then some that are, straight to mic, sort of like ours. Some conversational sets like ours tend to be as well. One of the things I appreciate about ours, we have a little range. I like our range of topics. I think it's pretty great. And we don't play any commercials.
Today's episode is brought to you by
I don't know. Let's pick a thing. Stream Deck. That's what I have. It's brought to you by Stream Deck. The quick change at your fingertip for your Ecamm Live. Yeah, we could do that. We could just cut to hey, we're going to go to a break here, and we'll see here after the break. And then, all right, we're back here after the break. So glad to see you. Maybe we should get some commercials, but I'm just saying, if you like this and you've been getting it for free all this time, and you want to chip into all this, go over to votecommongood.com, make a contribution, and that's how we have time and money and energy to do all this stuff, as people make donations. That's what we do.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we have been off the air for a little bit, and because of the tour, which I'm sure we've broadcast some of that, and I'm sure we'll have some recaps. And there's just been a lot going on, and there's been a lot going on, and in the world of politics, in the world of news, there's been a whole bunch that has been taking place that I feel like we haven't had a chance to really dive into and talk about. And so I thought today what we do is maybe kind of do like an overview, a big picture, a recap and a rundown of stuff that we've missed. And so I thought maybe we could do it kind of PTI style. I know
PTI.
You're not PTI. Pardon the interruption. A show which went on the air on ESPN.
Oh, your show.
No. This show that we're gonna do now. So pardon the interruption. Show that went on ESPN. I think 30 years ago. I think, or maybe 25. It's been around a long time. Won multiple Emmys, and the format is a couple of guys talking about a variety of sports topics. Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon, and one of the big innovations is that they kind of just rapid fire. Let's keep this thing moving. Let's make sure we don't get sidetracked. So we're going to do that today, Doug. We've got about a dozen things we're going to talk about. we're gonna try to keep ourselves to 4.5-ish minutes on each topic, and to help us do that, we're gonna have a little countdown clock. I would say this to those of you that are watching. If you don't like the topic that we're talking about, just hang with us for a minute. We're gonna talk about something else, and and hopefully there's something psychological about the clock that kind of keeps us from
because each segment is 4 minutes 30 seconds with a running timer that we see, and anybody watching video feed of this will see. And then I don't know, then I'll hit one of these little sound effects that I have at my finger. In fact, brought to you by the Roadcaster. So we'll just do some little sound that'll tell us we got to stop talking about it mid sentence or whatever, right? I used to run a conference with Tony Jones called Christianity 21, and one of the things we did there was a style of presentation that came out of Japan. It was called the Pagitt. So it's a style where you had a certain number of seconds and you used 21 slides. I think it was maybe 21 seconds or something per slide. And so your presentation was whatever that time is, 4 minutes and something. And your slides that you selected would change at a scheduled rhythm, like they're put on a timer. And then when the person's time was up, they were done, and we would put up an applause sign after their last slide so that the crowd would just start applauding. And we had to really work hard at the conference. Some presenters wouldn't do it. They would just want to keep talking, and we would just have to stir up the crowd and just be like, and they'd get moved to a standing ovation, and just override the person. And it was lovely. We got, so we ended up getting a cease and desist letter from the people who ran the Pagitt, because that's a brand name for their presentation. So we changed ours to, the event was called Christianity 21, Faith in the 21st Century from a Christian Perspective. And so we had 21 presenters, and then they would all do, 21 big key ideas. So anyways, all built around this 21 business, like blackjack. Nice. And you'd be surprised, Rob, at the people who, no, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but you might, you may or may not be surprised by the people who are seriously offended that they only got as much time as everybody else. And when their slides were done, they were done. Oh man, it was something else. So maybe I'll just go to cheers when we get done here, and then the timer has run out, and we're just like, thank you very much, on to the next one.
Yeah. So it's I would love to guess some names of those offended people, but I'm not going to do that live on the air. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the button to get us started.
All right.
And we're going to start by talking about Madison Cawthorn. Doug, Madison Cawthorn made the news by appearing so congressional-like with his hat on backwards and his T-shirt wearing, approach on a podcast, talking about how he has been invited by other people in Washington, other elected leaders in Washington.
I heard this.
That he says people that he has respected and admired for a long time have invited him to their orgies and where there's a lot of cocaine use. And he actually uses the phrase in this clip, which we're not going to listen to because, come on, it's Madison Cawthorn. But he uses the phrase key bump of cocaine, which
don't know the phrase.
Right, because you're not a cocaine user. And so, Doug, what's your take on Madison Cawthorn outing Republicans as having cocaine-filled sex orgies in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, I mean, I heard about this after, what I consider to be one of the deplorable, Mike McCarthy's was Congressman McCarthy was trying to rein him in, trying to say, you don't, look, you can say all kinds of horrible things about other people. You don't go off slandering and saying that you're invited to, sex-filled orgy cocaine parties. Even though the modern version of the Republican Party, I wouldn't put it past them. Right. It's the number of things we've just heard about going on with the Trump crowd and all of these people, the number of convictions and the things with Matt Gaetz and all this. You just really wonder sort of what's going on. But here, an insider in the Republican Party is a guy who's saying this about other Republicans. Look, I don't know if is that a current picture we see on the screen there of Madison Cawthorn?
That is a picture from the podcast interview in which he said these things.
Wow. He just has a kind of youthful.
He is the youngest. He's the youngest congressperson ever elected to Congress.
How old is he?
He's 25. He's previously AOC was. I mean, he might be 26 or 27 now, but when he was elected, he was the youngest congressperson ever elected to Congress. Younger than AOC was.
Wow. Well, look, age doesn't always bring maturity, so I don't want to suggest this at all. I know a lot of people who are extremely mature at in their early 20s, and I know a 70-some-year-old former twice loser president who was extraordinarily immature, over and over. So, I'm not saying you have to be aged to be mature, but so many things about him strike me, Madison Cawthorn, this is, as someone who just doesn't have the requisite amount of maturity. Didn't he also recently get pulled over for driving without a license, speeding, and didn't know the car was registered to his dad? Isn't this all part of the same package? Do you know about this?
I don't think I'd heard that story.
That happened in North Carolina. I just read something about that. I was trying to track down some of this story. And there's just so many things that this man says. And again, maybe it's because he's not in the party that has power in Congress. So there's not much to do. He's not well thought of by leadership, so they're not inviting him into anything. He's really only has this small cadre of hyper Trump supporting people that are in his world. So when that's your world, then on the other hand, if he's being invited to orgy filled cocaine parties, good for you letting that out. Like, that's bad work.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
People are doing this stuff.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe him? Do you believe this has actually happened? Because I fundamentally, if I had to put money down, I would say no, he's lying.
Well, he even said to McCarthy, well, actually, I overheard somebody in a parking garage, and gotta stop right there.
There we go.
We're done.
Possibly joining Madison Cawthorn and the other deplorables in the Trump caucus of the House of Representatives. Doug, Sarah Palin has thrown her hat into the ring to run for. So Alaska has one congressional seat. It has an at-large seat, making it, I think the largest congressional district in the country, because it's the entire state of Alaska. Just like they choose 2 senators, they choose 1 congressperson. Right. Don Young, who's been their congressman for, our whole lives, or something like that, is retiring. And so there's a special election to replace him that's happening. And then there will be there's a special election to fill his term out, and then there will be like the regular election that takes place in November for the next congressional term. And Sarah Palin has registered to be on the ballot in both of those races. Doug, what do you think about a prospect of Congresswoman Palin?
Well, look, she's been an interesting character who has found her way into celebrity from her political world. Some people do that. There are some people who cross over into popular culture as a celebrity from politics. Pretty rare, but she managed to do it. And now she's dipping back in, which I will just say this. It's better than what she was doing this summer, because this summer you and I were with a friend whose parents are big into Republican supporting. So this person who is not, not like us, he is not into it at all.
I know where you're going.
Went on to one of those things where you hire a celebrity to make a video for you. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, she's on there. Rudy Giuliani, others are on there. So she makes a greeting. He pays $150 or something to have Sarah Palin give a happy anniversary greeting to his parents. And she goes on and on in her house like for 4.5 minutes. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so whatever amount of money she's making, and I've I don't think people can make real money off that, but apparently they can, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So she's just sitting at home making videos for people and sending them out. It seems to me that the former governor, didn't finish the first term governor of Alaska and a failed vice presidential candidate, maybe has a little more to offer than this. So why not get Sarah Palin back in the mix? Let the good people of Alaska try to figure out if she's the kind of person they want. I think we need to have every one of these Trump supporting Republicans run so that the citizens can make a statement if they want them or not. And look, if the Republicans of Alaska want her, then we know where the problem lies with the Republicans in Alaska. But this idea that she should stay out, I'm like you. I'm one of these. Everyone should run. We shouldn't tell people not to run. They should have the consequences of running. So I guess it's, look, Sarah Palin should be doing something more than making, happy anniversary videos. Now, I would invite her over to the common good to, make that her political criterion, rather than, whatever it happens to be because I think she's more Trump than Trump. I think she's Trumpier than Trump. I think she was the pre-Trump. I think she was somebody who set up this whole debacle.
So there is, in this special election, it's going to be interesting, like which way this will cut. Does her name recognition and notoriety hurt her, or does it help her? It's a really crowded field. There are 50 people who are running for this congressional seat, including Santa Claus. I'm not making this up. And Santa Claus is a Bernie Sanders supporting progressive kind of guy. So, hey, Santa, I'm voting for you. So is she going to be able to break out of the crowd because she has instant name recognition, or does her notoriety work against her? It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
It's the end of that segment. Boy, 4 minutes and 30 seconds goes fast, Rob.
Ginny Thomas.
All right. This is disturbing to me, man. When I was... any federal judge, any federal elected official, but especially those in the judiciary, have an internal set of rules about how you behave and how your spouses behave. Some of it's like actual agreement, and some of it's just the classy way you do this, right? You don't allow your spouse or other family members to utilize your relationships as an elected judge in order to do political work. In fact, I've heard stories of judges whose spouses couldn't even go to a fundraiser, couldn't even give their neighbor a ride to a fundraiser because they would be heard that they've been participating too deeply in politics for which their spouse has vowed to stay away from. The fact that for decades, Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, has been a hardcore right-wing activist, has been a problem for decades. But on top of it, that she's a full-on QAnon advocating person is just out of bounds. Yeah. This is, look, I don't know who's supposed to police this. John Roberts, most likely. Like, this seems to me that it's your job, John Roberts, as the Chief Justice. That's why you would have a Chief Justice. I mean, I don't know why else you have one other than like the function of the court. But it's time to get this thing under control because this is, and then all the things she actually wrote, I could spend weeks talking about that. She's got access to Mark Meadows, the former, the failed presidential candidate, chief of staff, that she's got his personal cell phone and is like ginning up January 6th conspiracy theories is just, it's outrageous. I'm not saying she can't have those opinions, whatever. She shouldn't be using them and shouldn't be funding. I bet you check her bank account. I bet you check where the dollars have gone. She funded this stuff. I don't know. I'm just fairly confident and be glad to be proven wrong that her bank account put money into other bank accounts that were spent on January 6th.
Yep. And people are going to make the argument, and Republicans have made the argument that this is a spouse of a Supreme Court justice. It's not him doing it. He can't control he doesn't know what his wife is doing. It's fine. And clearly there's a sharp distinction between Ginny Thomas and Clarence Thomas. Now, you talk about what Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and their relationship and who's responsible for what as a father-son, all of a sudden Joe Biden's completely responsible for anything his son may or may not have done, but Clarence Thomas has nothing to do with what his wife is doing. So like that kind of hypocrisy is there. Now, one of the things I am like fascinated by this story is all of this Ginny Thomas news about her. We knew she was involved with the January 6th stuff already, but her text to Mark Meadows, all of this broke at the same time that Clarence Thomas was in the hospital. Like, that was weird.
You're saying the news about it got out, not her behavior or writing text messages.
Yeah. All of this broke. All of this came out publicly.
Wow.
Oh, right at the same time. And I think we've heard that he's been released from the hospital now, but I don't think we've heard that he is, back to the Supreme Court yet and back working yet. But I just find that interesting.
You're hinting that maybe this is going to be the reason for the exit out, that this becomes.
I don't know. It
was interesting that I heard Mitch McConnell. I read in an article about Mitch McConnell today that he was making a big deal that if Biden has to appoint another Supreme Court justice, then he's going to have to moderate to the middle. Maybe he knows something about Clarence Thomas that the rest of us don't.
Yeah. In related news, the January 6th committee is pressing on. Ivanka Trump, I think, was supposed to make her appearance before the committee.
I heard she threw her old man under the bus too. Did you hear about what?
No.
Yes. Oh yeah. No. Here's what I heard. And I heard this on MSNBC, so don't act, I don't
it's totally suspect.
Mr. Inside Scoop. You're like, I got a press pass in my hat. That she said that she recounted being in a meeting on January 6th in the Oval Office, or at least in the White House, saying to the people who mattered, Mike Pence is a good man. This is terrible what you're doing. You cannot be trying to force him, like her and Kushner, because Kushner was out of the country and he has tried to separate himself, from Trump now, and they're trying to rebuild their reputation. And apparently from somebody on the committee, then to reporters, Ivanka Trump's testimony is, we were communicating as strongly as we could to the former failed president and twice impeached man that this is not appropriate. That what's going on is not. So now she has spent, 5 years constantly agitating for things that I think are harmful to this country and then trying to cover her own reputation. And, her and Kushner in the early days of the Trump administration, they were the leakers.
Yeah.
That were leaking out all this stuff about putting, the smart people around him and protecting him and protecting the country from it. That was all coming from them. Everyone, the reporters have done everything but just turn over their notepad and show you their names, right? It's clear to the people who know that they're the ones who are doing this. So yeah, I think her and Jared are going to do everything they can to, which is also part of the reason that I don't think Trump is running for re-election. I know other people think that he is, but this would just, he has less going for him now than he did in 2015 when he slowed down that escalator.
For sure. And, so also since we've been gone, news has broken that there is a 7-hour gap in the White House phone records that were turned over to the January 6th investigation. A whole lot of discussion of burner phones. I remember all the talk about Barack Obama's BlackBerry and whether or not he was going to be able to use his BlackBerry. And remember that? And it was it was like tan suit level scandal. And here's Donald Trump with multiple burner phones to use.
Remember the tan suit scandal? That was for people who've forgotten. So it was fantastic. Actually an entire thing across the Fox News ecosystem.
So fantastic.
That what kind of a man as president wears a tan suit and not a dark suit?
You know who did? Ronald Reagan did.
Oh yeah, that was a great part. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyways, like
nicely pointed
burner
tin
phones.
looks just as powerful as a dark pinstripe.
Yeah.
I mean, it can just really pop. It's just got a great look to it.
Yeah, and the other thing is there's reporting now that the January 6th committee is going to be recommending that Donald Trump be charged criminally with trying to overturn the election. And there's been court filings that have indicated this. There's been reporting that indicates it, that they are, the wheels of justice move slowly, but they are really moving towards taking a stand of saying, hey, like what this guy was doing was illegal, it was wrong, it was traitorous and seditionist. And Doug, do you think this gets all just couched as political stuff and goes away, or will there actually be legal jeopardy for Donald Trump?
It seems to me, I don't know all the legalities, but I don't think that Congress people are prosecutors. So I don't think it's their role in the system to be the ones who determine if somebody... Gotta stop right there.
Well, if the January 6th Commission does not come up with something, maybe they'll be able to, use Trump's more recent words against him. Donald Trump did a news interview where he once again invited the leader of a foreign power to dig up dirt on his political opponent. Remember, this is why he got impeached before, when he wanted Zelensky, a name we didn't know back then, the newly elected president of the Ukraine, to dig up dirt on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and kept funds, from being sent to the Ukraine as a quid pro quo. Now he goes on national television, and invites Vladimir Putin to dig up some dirt on Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And Doug, it's not just that he, said this again. It's not just that he invited the leader of a foreign country to meddle in American politics again. It's that he, again, at this moment in time, appealed to Vladimir Putin, who is the least popular person on the planet because he's in the midst of invading another country.
Yeah, and committing war crimes. Like, while Putin is committing war crimes, Trump says, hey, why don't you commit another crime for me? Yeah. So, maybe he understands Crimea, misunderstands Crimea, and thinks that it's just where you commit crimes. It's as if Trump is trying to say, well, this guy clearly has no scruples or morals. So, hey, Vladimir, while you're busy, covering up the genocide-like activity of your soldiers, as not only that you're invading another country, invading its sovereignty, but what the people under your command are doing is on the level of which there will be decades-long international court cases. It's that bad. And in the middle of that, what does Donald Trump say? Hey, did you ever get a hold of that thing that could have helped me 2 years ago? Like, this is the kind of brain that this man currently has, that what he chooses to spend his time to, and doesn't think there's any downside to doing this. I'm talking about Donald Trump. Doesn't think that siding with Putin, asking then a person performing actions that will likely be called the actions of a war criminal, to ask that person to help him. Normally, a politician would be like, hey, whatever there was back then was just me being political. When you ask the guy to be on your support team, while he's committing these other atrocities and crimes and is being sanctioned by the world, that's just incredible. Yeah. Like, what on earth makes someone think that there's not political cost to this? And look, will Donald Trump ever be under legal jeopardy? I don't think so, because we will not put our former presidents in jail. Just not going to do it. It harms the country, and there's just no benefit to us as a society to have to go through this. What we should do is banish the man to obscurity. Tell the truth about what he's done. Let his name carry with it the reputation that it's earned, and let him never have the control of the levers of power again. And if in this country people decide, no, we want that guy after the 4 years of nightmare that he led us through and what he's been doing all these years, well, then that's where we are. So, then it'll probably be the greatest chance for us to really take stock of who and how we are as a country. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think that.
The Hunter Biden story. It's not going away.
Is it not really?
It's not. It's
Come
not.
Did the Justice Department say they were going to open an investigation into this?
There is an ongoing investigation into Hunter Biden's business deals. The Justice Department confirmed that they are already investigating. Okay, so just to recap, Donald Trump was impeached the first time because he asked Zelensky to investigate Hunter Biden's business dealings in the Ukraine. There's also been questions about Hunter Biden's business dealings in China, and Republicans really latched on to Hunter Biden being the scandal that could bring down Joe Biden. They were unsuccessful in tarring Joe Biden with it during the 2020 election, and so they're trying to use it now to bring down his presidency, and as if his presidency wasn't already like lurching along as it is. But that's a conversation for another day.
I think it's going better than some others, but you're right.
Hunter Biden's laptop, has become this mythical holy grail thing.
That's conservative crazyville talking points.
But Matt Gaetz, Congressman Matt Gaetz, came out this week and said that he was, during a congressional committee hearing, said he was in possession of Hunter Biden's laptop and asked that the contents of that laptop be entered into the congressional record. And
now, that's a guy I don't believe.
Now there's some discussion, and that laptop. If I don't invite you to do this, but if you Google Hunter Biden's laptop, turn off the safe mode on your pictures on Google Images, you're gonna see some things you don't want to see, because there's what
people are saying is in there. You mean what videos and pictures?
Yeah, pictures and all sorts of stuff of Hunter Biden. So I listen. But this story is not going away.
Well, yeah, but Rob, I think it's not going away because it's like Hillary's emails or Benghazi. Like, this is what Republicans do. They pick a thing, they just obsess on it. There's nothing there. It's not going to go anywhere. If Matt Gaetz had that laptop, if there were things in it, if any of this had any to do, it would be out there.
How does Matt Gaetz get the laptop?
That's what I'm saying. And if what he's doing is, well, I'm not going to do anything until it gets introduced into Congress. None of it's, look, this is just, and Matt Gaetz is under investigation himself for trafficking a 16 and 17-year-old for his own sexual purposes.
Yep.
So the only reason it's not going away is because these are the phrases that come out of the QAnon-like Republicans that just are completely convinced that there is a cabal going on, and somehow Hunter Biden and Jack Kennedy are somehow involved in all this. I don't know.
John F. Kennedy Jr.
Where did he go? Did he go by Jack? Was that his?
That was his dad. No. I mean, JFK Jr. is going to come back and fix everything.
John Jr. I think, yeah, of course, the phrase Hunter Biden and Hunter Biden's laptop is not going away. That doesn't make it a story. if this thing were a story, it has been a story for 4 years. 2 years into the Trump administration, they started on this thing. So 3.5 years, they've been talking about this thing having been a story and all the rest of it. So and look, the guy, by his own admission, had a serious drug. Okay,
Doug, who won the presidential election in 2020?
Well, if you ask Donald Trump, he said he lost. So that's a new opening.
So apparently Donald Trump
says, well, when I lost the election, that was really great news for China and really great news for South Korea.
Yeah.
I think he meant North Korea, but anyway.
Yeah. So he somehow he met with a group of historians that were going to interview him and a bunch of other folks to write the definitive history of the Trump presidency. There was some, the article I read, Doug, seemed to indicate that Trump himself convened these historians because he just wanted to give one interview and doesn't want to, be interviewed over and over and over again about his presidency. And he, in the course of this conversation with these historians, as just kind of an aside, he lets the cat out of the bag that he lost the election.
By saying, when I lost the election, when I lost, this happened.
Now, do you think he's speaking in a technical sense or in a colloquial sense?
A colloquial sense. Look, he's trying. I mean, does the man know that he lost the election? Of course. Does his broken sentence patterning ever give you anything to hang your hat on?
Yeah.
Can you believe that a phrase that he said, he would later admit that's what I meant to say? Because when he said, well, I'm being told by my own Defense Department and CIA that Russia interfered in the election, but Putin just told me he didn't do it. And why wouldn't I believe him? And then came back, 3 days later and said, oh, I misspoke. I should have said, why would I believe him? Not why wouldn't I believe him? So I'm sorry. That's not what he meant to say. He's meant to say, why wouldn't I? When he said, if we put the bleach inside of somebody, and I heard him say, and then later he said, I was just being facetious. I was just joking about that. No, he wasn't just joking about that. When he said, I can sexually assault a woman, he later said, no, that was just this kind of talk. So look, the man could say 1,000 times over, I lost the election because I did not get more votes than Joe Biden got in the states that mattered, or in the popular election. So I lost. He then will come back later and say, I didn't lose. They stole it from us. And by the way, Trump's argument the whole time has been, they stole the election. The results are fraudulent. So he can easily say, yes, the result was that I lost, but I didn't really lose. They cheated. Mm-hmm. That's been his argument the whole time. And that argument goes in two ways. One is they took away votes or added votes. That's one option. And the other was they created a set of conditions by using extended voting and mail-in voting and more drop boxes. And that's what created a context that we couldn't compete in, because they changed the rules in the very year of the election that they say were COVID related. And so he says that's what created as unfair. It's hard to know, ever listening to Trump and the others who hold this, he didn't really lose the election or it was stolen, which thing they think happened, because they've said all of them, and Trump will literally say them in the same paragraph. Yep. All of those kind of moving around. So, but does he deep down know that he didn't get more votes? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And did Biden cheat?
No.
I'm pretty sure not, because if you were going to cheat at that level, you also would have gained seats in the House of Representatives, because some places, the very district that voted for Biden also voted for a Republican, which is deeply concerning. So how would you have pulled that one off?
Yeah, and my favorite part of the article was that Trump was desperately trying to impress the historians. He cared most what they thought about him.
I wonder how that was.
All right, from really hilarious stories to really concerning and tragic stories. As Ukraine continues to hold on against Russia, as Russian forces are now retreating. What we're finding in their wake is evidence of war crimes. And, Zelensky appeared before the UN this week and basically said, hey, if y'all don't do something about this, why do you even exist? And really called on the UN to kick Russia out, impose sanctions, stop them, or dissolve because they're a pointless organization. Really harsh words coming from Zelensky as a result of this. Doug, really, pictures that are hard to look at, scenes that are hard to see. It's just war is hell, but this is
war
this is
crimes
rough.
are worse. Yeah. Look, war is always a failed endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's just never all the wars that the United States has been involved in, initiated. They're all failure. Even if one side is victorious over the other, it's a failed project. And then there's the war crimes like this, zip tying people's hands and beating them and torturing them and then shooting them. That I've been seeing footage of that.
Yeah.
And look, if we're seeing that footage in our family rooms, there's more. There's even more that's gone on than that, right? Yeah. They're only letting out the stuff that's can be let out. Mm-hmm. It's really horrible. And the truth of the matter is, to all the Zelensky's, I understand his argument. I would make the same one, I'm thinking, if I were in his situation. But we don't live in a world where someone can do something about it. It's not. I wish that world existed.
Yeah.
But we live in a world where certain amounts of power and certain amounts of deadly capacity give people freedom to do things longer than they otherwise should. And it is just, I don't think anyone wants to admit that. I don't think anyone wants to admit that the UN or that, any of the international relationships are insufficient to prevent these things from happening, but they are insufficient. Yeah. And so if we think, putting NATO together is what's caused peace, this idea again, that somehow a policing force is what keeps violence from happening, that's not true on our local streets. Yep. That's not true internationally. It's other kinds of agreements that allow for these things to happen. It's people choosing good and right behavior. Is Putin going to be charged with war crimes? I think without a doubt. He's going to be charged. But I'll say this, I think George Bush was charged with war crimes because of Iraq. Like, there are international courts that have charged him with crimes. Being charged with a crime when you're not under the jurisdiction of a court, where is that going to go? So we're really facing a moral situation here that doesn't have a clear legal outlet to it.
Yeah.
It's really tragic. And the illusion that we should break ourselves of is, oh no, somebody's got their hands on this. So I get Zelensky saying, why do you all exist? And the UN is like, well, not for this.
That's kind of the point. Is your sense as Russia's pulling back, is this the beginning of the end, or is this, my fear is that Russia's pulling their troops back so that their troops are not incinerated when they drop a nuclear bomb?
Yeah, I think the advantage to dropping a nuclear bomb is zero. Like, tactically, not only because of the ramifications that would come from it, but for what purpose?
Yeah.
Revenge. To tell Ukraine to surrender, or just to kill a whole bunch of people. Yeah. There's a website out there that I can't remember the name of it now, but you can Google it, that tells you what would happen if a nuclear weapon was dropped on any major city, and it's not what. Wow, these rules have got to change.
Doug, explain to everybody what Title 42 is. It was reversed by the CDC on Friday. And there's been really interesting Democratic reaction to that. But explain to everybody what Title 42 is.
So Title 42 is a federal health standard that allows the U.S. government to do things under what's called Title 42 that they otherwise couldn't or wouldn't do because there's a current or coming health crisis. It's been invoked a number of times through our history. It wasn't started in this pandemic. It's something that exists in the federal code. And so under Title 42 gives the federal government ability to pull off things that they otherwise couldn't. The way that's been applied currently is it's applied to our southern border to put all kinds of restrictions in under the auspices that we're trying to protect people in the United States from COVID. So it means that people from other countries who are seeking asylum can't come in because we're worried about COVID. It means that people who have green cards but don't have residency can't come into the United States because of concerns about COVID. It means that people from other countries will have to have different kinds of standards of testing than people from the United States. All this kind of stuff. There has to be a legal apparatus for the things the United States does.
And it's been
Trump, and then you put in place things at the border that have no legal apparatus at all and are later overturned.
But
so that
Title 40
has been in place since the start of the pandemic.
Yeah, and it's the sense from folks who work at the border is that Title 42 has been used as a pretext to enforce a discriminatory border policy, an immigration policy. And now the Biden administration is reversing it, is going to stop enforcing Title 42 or allow people. It's pausing that action. And what's been
Title 42 is no longer in effect on certain conditions as they face the border.
And
it's phased out.
What has been fascinating is the reaction to this from Democrats who are basically saying, oh, wait a minute, I'm not so sure we should be doing this. Mark Kelly in particular, who is facing a re-election fight to be the senator from Arizona, a border state, breaking with the Biden administration and saying, no, we should keep Title 42 intact. And other Democrats saying, listen, this might be the right policy, but this isn't the best implementation of it. So what's your sense about Democrats being, reacting in an unexpected way to this news?
Well, every Democratic lawmaker and every Democratic candidate is not right on every issue, and Mark Kelly is wrong on this one. Just flat out wrong on it. The Biden administration, in my view, has been too slow on this issue. They should have reversed Title 42 and other implications around our border treatment a long time ago. These are counterproductive. They're bad ideas. And just because someone's a Republican doesn't mean every idea they've ever had is wrong. And just because someone's a Democrat doesn't mean every idea they've ever had is right. If it was that simple, life would be that simple. And it's not. So there's a lot of reasons why Democrats can be wrong about this. And immigration is one of the blind spots in our society. And immigration feelings and immigration policy commitments don't break only along political lines. We spend crossing the border and talking to people who live there, and people who are very committed Republicans disagree totally with how Republicans treat the border. They don't agree with it at all because they live so close and they see the ramifications. You get some people who even live 100 miles away in Arizona who are Democrats, and they love what we're doing at the border.
Yeah.
So it's not one of those issues. Not everything only breaks along party lines, and this is one of them. Which is why, we're working so hard to try to get some kind of a common good attitude about what's going on the border, because it's not one of those issues that someone can comfortably say.
Elon Musk is now.
I just strung that one out so the cheers would interrupt me. Could you tell?
I enjoy watching you do that every single time. Elon Musk is now the largest shareholder of Twitter.
Oh.
And have you not heard this?
No.
Elon,
I just put it in the category of things about Twitter I could not care any less about. Hang on a second. Who's the largest shareholder then?
Elon Musk is now the largest shareholder of Twitter. He has the largest. And as a result of that, he has now been invited to join the board of Twitter, and he is now on their board of directors. There's a lot of people speculating that Elon Musk is an interesting and complicated and frustrating person to me. In so many different ways, he's one of these tech celebrities that it just makes me want to bang my head against the wall, and I'm just infuriated by billionaires going to space and all of this. And now the thought that Elon Musk, who doesn't always seem to have America's best interest in mind, is tremendously influential at one of the biggest tech and communication platforms that exists. It's interesting to see if there's going to be some impact from this. Now, there are two impacts that are being most discussed about Elon Musk's arrival on Twitter. A is that he will have sufficient influence to bring about a edit button on Twitter, which is desperately needed.
And for those who don't know or care, it means that when you write a tweet, you can't update it.
You can't fix it. That typo.
Typoed, or you can delete it or leave it. That's it.
Yeah. No edit button. We need an edit button. Elon Musk is also known as a free speech advocate, which has people suggesting that he's going to use his influence now, not just to get an edit button, but also
kind of an American thing to be a free speech advocate, though. Let's not throw free speech advocate into the category of, well, this nut job, really.
Good point. Well said.
What kind of goofball?
He's a free speech advocate. What in the world? We'll use his influence.
You offer freedom of religion? What is this guy?
Use his influence to bring Donald Trump back to Twitter. Doug, is Elon Musk going to bring Donald Trump
back onto that little social platform? Yeah, I mean, look, every part of our society.
And by the way,
part of our society should have punished Donald Trump, and that Twitter did it too. Great, and he should have been kicked out of his HSA, and he should have been kicked out of his. He had a Costco membership; they should have taken it away from him, for sure. But it's not real punishment. It's not a real thing if he gets back on. Who cares? The guy gets any attention he wants, and if he gets more attention because he's on Twitter, that those 7 million, 14 million, 32, 112 million, whatever, they're all listening to the guy anyway. And every other, I just think it's. I mean, my attitude. It's like people talking about the stock market, believing it's the economy, and talking about Twitter as if it's the media, and that it's actually the thing that is influencing public opinion. Yeah. I think there are things that affect public opinion. I'll just say this: I don't have any idea who else is on the board of Twitter, and I'm on Twitter at Pagitt at Twitter. I'd love for you to follow me because it's really an important communication tool. But
save me 10 seconds here.
Okay. Having said that, I don't know anybody else who's on the board of Twitter. I don't care. I mean, so that Elon Musk is now on there. Well,
big news. I got into Truth Social, and I have not yet posted, but I am documenting, and it's going to be big. All right. Speaking of Twitter, the Babylon Bee had their Twitter account suspended.
Which is a satirical Christian.
Yes. It's a Christian version of The Onion. A Christian version of The Onion. Started off as kind of a clever thing, but has really veered into political stuff over the last several years. Is shown to be kind of blatantly right wing with a conservative agenda.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Well, I didn't know anything about
yeah. And so the Babylon Bee got their account suspended on Twitter because you remember that the Pennsylvania health secretary, transgender woman, I can't remember her name. Babylon Bee in one of their satirical posts named her as Man of the Year, in a awful trans joke, and Twitter said basically you can get back on, but you've got to delete the tweet, and they won't delete the tweet, and so they have been. Had their account suspended. Now, so all of that has happened, and at the same time, news is broken that Ron DeSantis and his
on the board of Babylon Bee. Is he the largest investor now?
The governor of Florida has entered into some kind of financial relationship with Babylon Bee.
Wow.
And this led to the Miami Herald writing a whole report about it and calling
see that.
Babylon Bee fake news instead of satire, and they look stupid. But the thing that, like, I pull back from that and I say, like, wait a minute, what is Ron DeSantis paying the Babylon Bee for?
What? Yeah.
And so what I've been able to find is two things. One is advertising, that Ron DeSantis and his campaign and everything is advertising on the Babylon Bee. I'm not sure. I've not been able to get confirmation of that. The other thing that I've seen is that Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who wants to be president of the United States if Donald Trump will let him,
Good line.
bought a contact list, a mailing list, a list, like data from the Babylon Bee.
Sure.
Now,
I could totally imagine that they've gotten into some sort of like sell, because Babylon Bee is going to sell some of its data, and that would make sense.
Apparently, this is
the Babylon Bee and buy some of their data. Wonder if DeSantis would throw us,
this feels to me like just icky. It's like, listen, you're why is the Babylon Bee so influential? Why are they so powerful? Like they're trash, and frankly, with like the stuff that they say, their obsession with AOC, their terrible, trans jokes, like they're not good for the country, and now they're like getting involved in politics in a partisan way of helping a specific campaign and a specific candidate.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. This whole thing feels icky to me. There's something here that, if 6 months from now, some news story breaks about something really scandalous going on with the Babylon Bee and the political world, I would just like everyone to remember that that I'm staking out the claim here and now that something's going on.
You need to write a tweet about this, get it out there, and not take that tweet down, even if they make you.
I'm on the record to say something's fishy in Denmark.
The honey's gone bad over at the Babylon Bee. Well, they used to just, I saw them way back when they had funny little cartoons about people in church work. All right. And finally,
can we just take 4.5 minutes to celebrate Ketanji Brown Jackson? Oh,
soon to be Supreme Court Justice. And I'd love to ask what her husband or wife has planned for,
her husband and
husband, she's husband.
Yeah.
What he has planned for his political engagement. I'd love to know.
Whose numbers does he have in his phone? You ever played that game, Doug? Who's the most famous person who contact in your phone?
No.
Yeah. That's a fun one. I had a friend that he introduced me to this game. He challenged me. He said, so at that point I laid down Brian McLaren. That was the best I had. And he laid down Muggsy Bogues, which is great. I think I could beat him now. But anyways,
Ketanji Brown Jackson would be a great one to ever get in there. So,
my goodness.
I've my phone number right now and say glad to be of any service if we could soon to be Supreme Court Justice.
Her poise, her confidence, her authenticity that came throughout her hearings was just really remarkable. What a stark contrast to Brett Kavanaugh crying about how much he loves beer. This is a remarkable woman who so excited that she's going to be on the Supreme Court. And even though the committee was deadlocked 11-11, the Senate did vote to move her confirmation forward. Three Republicans joining the Democrats in support of her: Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins. and
typical.
and yeah, and assuring that she will be a Supreme Court justice, and frankly, the country is better for it.
For sure. And to did you see that mashup of Republicans making statements about her, saying how great she was, how competent, how built out, and then cut to them saying, "And I will vote no against her nomination."
Yeah.
Like that. That's where we are. And look, the Supreme Court has been
Political.
politicized
It
for
is
decades.
Yes.
I don't know where you can go back wherever. To me, it goes back to Judge Bork, and it started there. And then it's just been an arms race of disparaging people. And every once in a while, someone passes by without that kind of attack. The political side of our system needs to figure out how to stop polluting the judicial branch. And look, our Constitution's made up a little funny. It's a little bit broken that these are supposed to be three distinct, equal branches of government, but the executive branch nominates the member of the Supreme Court and the judicial branch, which already makes it funny. And then we ask for some kind of engagement from the Senate and lots of debate about what they're supposed to do with what consent means, to advise and consent, about what that means. So it's a clumsy system, and it's been made just worse and worse and worse in the last 30 years. And it would be great if someone in the Supreme Court would say, it's now our job to regain some credibility in the judicial branch, starting with the Supreme Court. But there seems to be no appetite to do this. When I listen to the justices, even some that I really tend to like and agree with sort of their perspective and how they do it, they're like, oh, the Supreme Court's not political. We're sort of above that. We're all friends. We're all working over here. And it's like, well, you all might think that's how this is going, but the rest of the country doesn't see it that way. And once again, that group of people feel so out of touch with how everybody else is talking about it, that the only one who seems like they've got their eye right on it is Thomas, who's like, no, I'm just going to use this as a totally conservative thing, and it's going to be partisan. That's what it feels like the Supreme Court has. Hey, we did it.
We did it. Yeah. And we didn't even talk about Will Smith and Chris Rock.
Bad workplace behavior. Like the number of times people do bad things in work events, it's like, yeah, any other work event that you're in and you do that, you lose your job. Yeah. You smack somebody at the Christmas party, you smack somebody at the convention and the award ceremony for your little industry. Yeah, you lose your job. That's how it goes.
You've moved, because when it first happened, Doug, I was at your house and holding my phone, showing you the video. I think I was the one who actually announced to you that yes, hey, did you hear that Will Smith?
They're shouting it from the rooftop like the evangelizing angel.
Oh. And with that sense of like Twitter was made for moments like this.
Totally. Elon Musk is, that's why he's the biggest shareholder.
Oh, goodness. And so you, in the moment, you thought this is fake.
Totally.
Do you still think that?
No. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was fake at the time, because it seemed to me that this is the kind of thing that that they would do. Turns out it's worse than fake, that these are people that lack, the whole apparatus lacks its ability to control itself as an industry. And, look, Will Smith made a terrible, horrible action and has apologized for it. And it's not nearly enough. It's ridiculous. I'll just say, if he'd walked up and hit a woman, would we be talking like this? So, I mean, it's just, the whole thing is so bad all the way around. I guess the only answer is just no more awards. No one gets any more awards.
We're going to go, the pendulum is swung to everybody gets awards. Now it's going to swing to nobody gets awards.
None. You know what? If you're getting paid for your movie, if people watching your movie isn't enough.
And listen,
find another. Look, well, I mean, one other industry are people in the work because they really want to get the award at the annual party.
This one right here, we're in it for a potty, a casty. What would be a podcast award?
A potty would be great. I don't know if there's a potty award, but it should be a potty pants award. And,
exactly.
Is that did you just come up with that right now, or is that
potty? I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing.
Okay.
Gotta make that happen.
Welcome to the 2022 Potties. Copyright Doug Pagitt, Robb Ryerse. Yeah. April 6th, 2022. Well, thanks for the spin through the back pages of politics. Hey, friends, listen, sometimes we actually have candidates on. We talk about things
next week. Next Tuesday on the Politics Podcast on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central on this podcast. We're going to have...
Naturally, even in the space station.
We're going to have one of my very most favorite candidates in the country, someone that most of you have never heard of, and you are going to love her when it's over. So tune in. She is great.
Wow.
Great.
And if you think, hey, I won't worry about it, I'll just let it show up in the news feed and watch it later. No. Special things happen when you actually watch it live. It delivers something different. It's like the difference between frozen pizza and fresh made pizza. It's just a different experience all the way around. So be sure you're here at exactly 10 a.m. And sometimes we start at 10:03 or 10:04 if Dan's a little late on getting the button ready to go. All right. Well, Tony, thanks for your input here. DK Cambry, that's quite a statement. Jay, appreciate your comments. Dave, thanks for telling us what's going on in Michigan. Pamela, we see you. Sorry, we were just so pressed with that running clock over there.
Kathy,
Sean,
Mark,
Alex, Eric. So Eric,
Russ.
Eric has this interesting comment. Are you still part of the evangelical Christian Anati voting for Trump? Probably picked up, if you listened a little longer, that no. I just don't know if you stuck with us, Alex, but no, we're not. In fact, we're trying to, let people know that, some 22, 23, maybe in some areas, nearly 30% of evangelicals don't support Trump. So, it's not enough, but it's not everybody.
Yep.
Just look at us, just the little engine that could over here. All right, evangelical Robb Ryerse.
All right, evangelical Doug Pagitt.
I didn't even know we were evangelicals. You just smell of it, just like two white guys talking into microphones, and you're like, I'm pretty sure
they've got to be evangelicals.
Is that obvious?
White guys with a podcast? Yeah.
Wow. Smelling like campfire, and you're like, yeah. All right. Well, everybody, we'll talk to you later.